Hi, I recently did a tutorial demonstrating how to place objects in the middle of the faces of another object and make them so they sit flat on that object. This was great, but some of you pointed out that I use symmetrical objects such as a cone to demonstrate this, and while it aligns fine pointing upwards or out away from the face, when we switch to an object that isn't symmetrical, we encounter problems with the alignment of the XY axis. Every project is going to be slightly different. Blender can't possibly know what alignment you want. There are ways you can do it to align to various parts of the geometry. However, again, if your geometry is complex, then you may encounter problems. This is the way I've used to solve this problem on one of my projects. So this is what I've done to fix this. On this one, my y-axis always points up towards the central point above the zero axis and always down towards the bottom central point below the zero on the z-axis. Each of them still aligns with the face properly on the xy axis and the z still points out. So let's dive in and I'll demonstrate how this works. As you can see, I've got a similar setup to what I did in my previous tutorial. We've got an icosphere, which is our object that we are placing objects on. We are using the XYZ item, which I've created as our object, and we're placing that onto the surface using our capture attribute node, normal, and align Euler to vector. Then we're instancing it on the points using this node here. Let's get started on making this work. As you can see, they're all pointing randomly. And to do this, I'm actually going to disconnect the normal node. Now, you're going to have to figure out how this applies to your project. If you don't have a single central point, you have a long object that doesn't wrap around, you may need to do something slightly different. I'm going to use, instead of that one, I'm going to use the position attribute. We're going to get a vector from the center. We're going to switch it to the y-axis. We don't actually want the z-axis because what we need to do is create a circle with each of these points actually facing out the direction we need it to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to separate x, y, z. I'm going to intercept that and I'm going to rejoin it, bind x, y, z. Only take the x and the y axis. As you can see, this is now aligned my x and y axis. Currently the z axis is pointing up, directly up. That will change in a bit when we rotate it outwards, and that's sitting on the faces. What we're going to do is we're going to come over here. We're actually going to create another copy of this instance on points. So what we want is everything to go back to the center where it originated from. So what I'm going to do is they're all instances. So if I do this, it's not going to apply to the individual geometry. It is going to apply it to the instances as a whole. So I'm going to go to right, I'm going to set position, and I'm going to set it to a constant value of 0. Of that's 0, 0, 0, x, y, z. If we turn this off, as you can see, it's now around the z-axis, it's pointing out to all the different locations. So we're going to instance on points again. So I'm going to duplicate that. I'm going to put that in here, and I'm going to put our geometry into our instances. And I'm going to take our points, which are the same points that are being used here, and this is now going to be joined up. Oops. As you can see, each point is wrapped around. This has created the same number of instances as faces, so we're going to pick the instances so that we only get the instance that applies to our particular direction. So now, as you can see, it's pointing up and along, but we are still not technically aligning to the face. So what we need to do is take our align Euler to vector again, and we need to take the unseparated value. So we're now aligning it straight to the face. We're going to plug that into the vector. And now we're going to plug that into rotation. We're going to change that to Z. And that now gives the Y is pointing down. In this case, I want it to point in the direction of the top or bottom. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select a math node, compare. I want to do greater than or equal to. We're using the Z from this output. And this result will give us the ability to switch stuff. So I'm going to go in here. I'm going to add a switch. Make it a vector switch. So I want to set these to 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. I'm going to plug this output into the scale here. If I make this -1 and this -1, then now we always point upwards or downwards, depending on whether we're above the halfway line. And that is my demonstration on how to align the Y geometry and the Z geometry using the capture attribute node and instance on point. I hope that helped someone. I am going to make another tutorial demonstrating how to individually align each single instance, but not today. I hope this helps someone. Thanks very much for watching.